Welcome to this project. We're working on concepting in ZBrush and Photoshop and showing you different methods. Before I begin, I wanted to show you about a plugin that we want to use with this course. If you go to Google and type in Sven Garley, that's S-V-E-N-G-A-L-I, and then put quick save for ZBrush, then you'll be taken to the ZBrush Central, where you'll be able to download the quick save button, which I've got here, which I'm going to install. And this will allow us to do incremental saves of our file, which is what we want to do. So the first thing I've done is extracted the file there, and now I need to go into my computer and so what I've done is I've opened the ZBrush folder, so Programs, Pixelogic, ZBrush, Startup. I'm actually using ZBrush 4 revision 3, but it's the folder's labelled it 2. Anyway, whatever. So then go in the Startups folder and just basically drag that into there. Oh, sorry, into the Z plugs, into there. Now, when I start ZBrush, in the plugins, we will have some extra bits and pieces. Here we go, Sven Garley. So he's in there, and I'll show you what that does when we start. Right, so there's a few ways we can use to create concepts. The first one, which is pretty common, that you've seen me use in some of my courses, is to actually just do it in Photoshop, and that would be to just do a new folder for speed. I'm just going to reduce that down, change these to pixels, do a height of maybe 800 by 1000 or 1500, and set OK. And then obviously make the background white. And then create some layers over the top, and then using my brushes just come in and start to concept out some ideas. If I have it on black, so you can start to sort of mock in some ideas for a kind of a creature or whatever. So that's one way of doing it, which is good. What I want to do is I want to create a kind of cuddly sort of creature that's actually going to have a pacifier in its mouth, and then behind it is going to be a huge pacifier. So it just shows the scale of this being small and a normal pacifier being big here, and he's going to be looking up enviously at the huge pacifier that will be somewhere there. So that's the idea behind this. So I could concept out in Photoshop, which is the usual method, how I normally do it, but there's a few other methods that we can look at. If we've got a kind of idea in our head, I'd still say it's a good idea to quickly sketch something out in here. But then we can go into ZBrush and use the sort of silhouette features to create our own kind of creature or style. So I'm not going to go ahead and create that creature, but I'm going to just show you we're going to create a sort of simple head bust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab just a head bust that I've got in my tools. It's actually in my morgue, and I've got him there. He's just a generic head, so I'm just going to drag him out onto the canvas. I will be supplying these source files for download, and I will include the Sven Garley, and the Sven Garley one I've got is for the ZBrush 4 release 3. So if you go to Sven Garley ZBrush Central site, look at the last post. I think it's post 4 or 5 at the moment. then you'll see that he's done an update in there. If you download the first version for ZBrush 3, there is some errors in there, I think. So anyway, getting on with this, we've got our head bust in here. So what we want to do is sort of work in kind of silhouette and switch between silhouette and sort of fast shader mode, so I can kind of see. So that's my silhouette, and I can work with this. What I want to do is I want to change my colours around. So I'm going to come down here and select black in the bottom left hand corner, bottom right hand corner, sorry. I'll do, and I want to select this as a background, so I've got that switch colours there. So I'm going to go to document and I'm going to click back. Well, that will put my white in there. Is it clean white? And I'll change this center out, center in. Okay, that's good. Okay. And so now I've switched it back. So now we've got this. What's the idea of this? Well, the idea is to use the move tool and to begin to kind of move things out and look at the silhouette and see that we're getting a nice sort of silhouette to work with. So let's say I'm going to turn on X symmetry. So for you guys up there, activate symmetry, X is turned on, and now I can start to pull my model in and I can start to give him a bit of a head. But as you can see, because you're just working in silhouette, it makes it a lot easier to sort of see the model and just not be kind of confused about the all the detail and stuff. Just don't have to worry about the detail. All you're looking for is to create a dynamic silhouette shape. I often switch over to something like the red cap wax. And then I can sort of see it, I can work on it a little bit more before I take it back to kind of silhouette. But that's kind of weird and wacky. Don't have to worry too much about the details, we can put it in. Yeah, this is good. I want a kind of fold of skin sort of coming down there. I think his chest area I'm going to bring out here. Maybe get these shoulders down. If you need more resolution, you can of course up the divisions a bit to give you a bit more resolution there. I think I want to come in and just tweak these eyes a bit as well. Taking back, switch the colour up there. So that gives me a kind of silhouette. So what do I want to do? Well, I want to be able to save this so that I've got a load of thumbnails, and so I can choose the thumbnail I like best. But at the same time, while I'm doing that, I want to save revisions of this file. So I'll show you how to do that using the Sven Garley save function. Okay, so in order to save this model, all I've done is, let me just show you, I've just put him into position here and I've scaled him down. Now I want to save this model. We've done no saves at the moment, so I'm going to go to Z Plugins, Sven Garley, and I'm going to press the model. This will bring up the model, and I'm going to put in here head concept. And I'm going to save it. So it's now saved it. So what I'm going to do now, because I've saved that model out, I'm going to press the the Shift and the S key. This will do a snapshot of the canvas. Now if I move this, you can see that that model is on the canvas. If I pressed Control N, that would clear it. But now what it means is that I can make further changes with this. So I'm going to give him I'm going to come along here and really kind of change this up a lot. That's quite nice. His face, I think I'll narrow his face down so he looks a bit more Egyptian in this one. I'll bring this down all a bit as well. That goes for the back area. So that's quite nice. I'm going to switch back to this and I'm just going to switch colour there. So that's another one. Now what I can do is I can get him and I can position him like that. Now I can go to the Z plugins and I will set a shortcut for this and do M+. What that now does is it saves it as 001, and now if I press the Shift S I can start to again manipulate and do another one. So let me show you what's happened. On my desktop I've got the original one, which is this model. I've got the one that I just created, which is now 001. So as you can imagine, if I now change this a bit more, and if you need to, go in and use the standard brush if you want to alter some parts, push some parts out, push some parts in. If you need to smooth, just smooth it down. Of course, if you need to add resolution, do that as well. So a very strange creature this. I'm going to kind of bring things around a bit. So you see you can really quickly create these pretty cool thumbnails. Switch colour, reduce down, put into position. Z plugins and plus, and saved out 002 there. So when I've finished creating a line of thumbnails, it gives me a very good idea of kind of what I want. Just put him there, press Control Shift, bring him down. I also might want to do some side angled ones to have a look. Again, because it's the same model 002, I'm not going to save out this model again, there's no point. So what I do is I now Control Shift it again to save it. And finally, when we're finished and we've created all of our models that we want to create, we can then just save the document out. So I go to Documents and I go Export, and I go into here and I go concepts. And I save. And now I've got this document. Remember, it will take on the document size, so whatever size you've got set in here, it will take on. And if I open this up, I can then see them. I can go, okay, well this one that I did here, which was, this was 0, this was 1, this was 2. Number 2 was best. So I can then come down here, and if I want to work, once I've turned this off, do I want to save changes? No. So I wanted to work on head concept 2 and actually finish it and make it better. I would open this up. Apologies, it was trying to open it up in Illustrator. I don't know why. So I'll just manually do it. Turn eBrush on, and I just want to load this tool in. So I go to my desktop and I look for Z Tool 2, which is this one, and I open. And now on my desktop I can drag it into view and I'm ready to go. So that's one way of doing quick thumbnails and getting a design ready for the next stage. Now what I'm going to do with this is, I like this design, so I'm going to use another method for concepting, and this is called the paintover. So using one model or two models that I put in here, I'll load the head design . I think I'll load the head concept 1 him, and I'll go to my subtools and I'll just append this here. So let's do that. This way I can work on two models for the concepting. It will be easier for me to show you. Right, now what we're going to do here is we're basically just going to, we're not going to put too much detail into him. We're going to put him at an angle, and then we're going to do the same with the other one. Then we're going to export it out, and we're going to do a paint over within Photoshop. So why am I doing that? Well, it's going to be quicker than sculpting. I can put hair on it, I can move parts, and it'll give me a quick concept of it. I mean, you can take this to however far you want. You can put more detail into them and then do a paint over, or some people just work solely in ZBrush doing concepts straight out of here, but a certain degree of paint over should be done really to make the figure stand out a bit more. So that's what we're going to do next. So we'll carry on with this project and I'll show you this second way of doing concepts. Okay, so here we are back in the site. So what I'm going to do first of all is to just choose something like a soft plastic. I'm going to divide this up a few times, and I'm just going to come in and try and take away a little bit more of the detail. So just use my soften brush and bring down some subdivision levels so I can clean around. I can bring it back up, and you can literally start dumping in some detail on it. You might want to put some eyes in there as well, but it's just a concept, so I don't want to get too caught up in refining it. what I'm doing here is I'm just sort of splitting the ear away a bit. Okay, so you get the idea. We're putting the detail in there. That's all nice. I'm going to divide it a few more times so it's nice and clean. And I'm just going to make the document a green colour, like this. The reason I've done that is that I want it to be, I want to be able to cut it out easily in Photoshop. So once I've got my model done, and remember you can do two versions, so I'm going to turn this one off, come into this version and divide him up. I'm not going to do any changes on this one. And what I'm going to do is make sure that they're roughly the same size, which they kind of are. And I'm going to come straight along. I'm going to do a best preview render. Yeah, that'll do. And I'm just going to export this document out. So I'm going to export as concept 1. What I tend to do is actually concept, isn't it? Because it's the first file. And then I'm going to come into this one. I'm going to do a just don't bother with that. Right, okay. And let's export this one out as concept 2. And now I can close off ZBrush. I'll save this as, hold on, let me just save my tool out. Final mockup 0 and 2. That tells me that 0 file was selected and number 2 was selected. So this one was selected and this one was selected. Cancel that. Right, so in here I've now got my two files. That's one. I'm just going to double click on the layer, like so. Get my brush palette, put it over here. Actually I'm going to move it onto my other screen. Select the magic wand, go down to select similar and delete it out. I'm just going to open up concept 2 now, which is this one, and double click on that layer. I think it's going a bit slow because of the recording software. Okay, and select similar, delete, and Control D, Control A, Control C to copy, and I'll copy it into here like this. Actually, I'm going to copy it into my concept. So there we go. And I use the edit free transform. Come back to this one. Control A. So make sure I'm on the right layer. Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control V to paste it into here, edit free transform or Control T shortcut and put it into it there. Okay, I can close these down now. Nope. This one, nope. And I want to save this one out. As concepts mockups. That will be the same title as the Z tool which I've created there. Now with these ones I don't really need them anymore, so I'm just going to chuck them in the bin. I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop, but before I do that I'm just going to close this off and call it concept or whatever your job is. Dump those in there, open this up and stage concepts and put these stage concepts into here. So I'm left with the final mock-up containing these two images, this one and this one. So for now, just because this is getting in the way, it's handy to have if I'm outputting this to show to an editor or the art director, then it's good to have these to show that the steps you kind of went through. So I'll just do that there. I'll create a new layer and I'll just drop some white in behind it. And now these two, we can start working with them. So the first thing I'm going to do is increase my document size. So I've gone into canvas size, I'm pushing out this way and I've increased to 3000, 2000 height, which will give me a massive great size. Drop some white in there. Double click the background layer and I'll just bring that to the top and I'll press Control minus to zoom out. I'm just going to select this because I want to keep this as a little strip, so I've selected it. I press Control Shift I to inverse and then I press delete. Now I can turn those off. I can get both of these and push them down here. Now I press the Control and E. I'm on the top, I'm on this one, yeah? So this one's here and I want to combine them, so I'm just going to press Control E. This will merge down on this one now. And now I'm going to duplicate, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a little strip. So I'm going to keep duplicating. And then I'm going to select the top layer and press Control E, and duplicate again. I don't think I'm going to need more than 4. So I'll just delete those out. And I'll press Control E to bring that down. Move these down, bring up this. Now I'm using the crop tool here. Just crop my canvas size down. And I'm going to press View, Actual Pixels. And now we are set up to do our paint overs on top of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a new layer. And I'm going to call this Paint Over 1. And we'll be working on this one. So we'll be painting over on this one. Then I'll do a Paint Over 2 for this one, Paint Over 3 for this one. And then I might number it up afterwards. So let's get working on this then. I think what I first want to do is split these out. So although we did duplicates there, I'm just going to cut this and then press Control V. It will put it on as a new layer. Put that down there, back where it was. Now I'm going to turn these ones off because I only want to work on this first one. I've left this first one here because I want to see the original file before we've done any modifications on it. So I can turn that off. I'm just going to save this, and now we're ready to work on these two head busts. So we can do loads of things here. We can use liquify to start moving things around. We can use the brush tool to start painting in things like hair or eyes, or we can start putting textures over it, or we can tint it. So we'll do a few of those things now, and it will just give you an idea of how to do a kind of paint over on top of the model. But this is kind of the first stage. I do want to duplicate this layer and create a kind of shadow version which I can put over the top of my paint over, but I'll show you how to do that later. Okay, so let's look at some of the tools that we can use here. So if we go up to filter, you'll see there's a liquify. Well, this is a really cool brush, and using our bracket keys we can move the size of the brush, or we can come over here and move the size, and also we can zoom in like we would, Control plus, use a space bar to move down. So I can start to make some pretty massive changes here. Just using the liquify button. Get hold of the ear area and move it up. Move this out. Maybe I want a spike sort of coming up in here. Or to move this mouth area down. Shoulders I might want a bit bigger in this area, so I can kind of move those across. So you can see, and then I just click OK, and it will apply it straight back to it. Come down to this bottom one. Maybe I want to bring this sort of forehead over here a bit more, make it a bit more pronounced. Move this jawline down, make the mouth a bit bigger. And so you can play around with lots of these other settings as well, and we just click OK. So that gives you an idea what you can do with the liquify brush. Now on this new layer that we've got, this paintover layer, I'm going to start to add some detail. I'm just going to work on this one because once you've seen me do it once, you don't need to see the rest. It's just to give you an idea. Okay, so I'm going to go into the brush tool and just grab a softest brush, grab a light colour, actually probably want a harder brush because I'm going to do the kind of pupils. I'm going to use the smudge tool now. Just going to start to smudge this eye area up. I'm trying to follow the contours of the eye socket that I've got going on here. Just use the eraser brush just to take out any little bits. And like I said before, you could have just gone in and put the eyes in ZBrush, but you get the idea. I use a smudge brush, which is quite good for just sort of blurring it. Just gives it a bit more, just makes it look a bit more realistic. Like that. And finally, turn the opacity down here, bring my brush size up, just take that across a bit there. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to create another layer, and I just want to put some sort of hairs on him. So I'm going to kind of throw out a few hairs around this area, and maybe here as well. Around there, and now if I go up to my layers and layer style, I'm just going to grab the drop shadow. It will just add a little shadowed area underneath it, and I can leave that on while I'm working so that I can just go over the top. You notice with the shadow on, the white actually shows up on the white because it puts a little shadow behind it, so it's quite effective. So that's quite nice. Okay, I want to now go to a softer brush, increase the size. So say I wanted the cheeks to be a bit oh, I'm in the same layer. Be careful of that. I don't want the drop shadow on it. So what I need to do is come back to my paint over one layer, just increase the size, just start to put some shadow in around here, maybe touch this side. Use my smudge tool. I'm just going to smudge this out, and then I'm just going to use this to use the eraser. Just to kind of blend it back a bit. So let's zoom out. So already you can see that we're adding detail in there. And so this is what I do, I just continually go over it. I can use some of these other tools to create a bit of noise. Like that. And when I'm finished with the paint over, which I'm not yet, but I'm just going to create a new layer now, and I just want to drop these effects down onto it. So I've got it there, so I'm going to choose the paint over, so I've just had a new layer created, create a paint over, press Ctrl E to merge down, and now I've got a drop shadow on that which I want to keep. So I'm going to apply it. So the way I can apply it but get rid of the effect is to drop it onto another layer. That's why I've set this layer up. So this layer's got this detail on it, and this layer's obviously got the, but when I drop it down it will still keep the drop shadow, but the effect has gone, which is good because I've combined it now onto one layer, which is what I wanted to do. So in order to just blur this up, I've chosen this little brush, and I'm just going to drag oh, I'm on the background layer, I need to be on this layer. Well, that's not going to work very well. Maybe this one. Oh, again I'm on the wrong layer. So I just want to bring this down. Right, now I said I got that little black bit, so what I need to do is I need to just create a layer under this layer and just paint in black. with a solid brush like that. Now I can merge that down. In fact, while I'm at it, I could do the bottom one as well, but let's not worry about that. Okay, now I said to you before I wanted to create a kind of shading layer, and the reason I want to do that is because I want to create a new layer. I'm going to use my magic wand and zoom out so you can see what's happening. Pressing Control I, so the mask is on the inside. I go to my new layer, which is here, and I'm going to fill it with a kind of maybe a fleshy colour. That'll do. And then I'm going to fill. Now I'm going to use a multiplying effect, and in this case it's going to be soft light, and I'm going to drop this below it as well. So by doing that I've automatically coloured my model up. I'm going to duplicate this layer again and I'm going to put it on top. This time I want to go into Image, Adjustments and Levels, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank this so that only the darkest bits kind of remain like that. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to use a Gaussian blur just to blur out those shadows. Not much, just a little bit. That's pretty good. Now I want to come in and reselect and go back into my layer. This is this layer, and trim it so that it doesn't overlap. Now I can put darken, and my colour will go in over top. I might drop it below this. I might actually do it as a soft light, but you can see there it's knocked the colour back, or a multiply. That's better. And I'm going to merge it all down now. So I'm going to merge visible. So I've got that, turned all those off. I'm going to go to Layer and Merge Visible. Might have to do a bit of cleanup. Just use my lasso tool here. Just come around it. Trim that off. Just add that in and zoom out. So there we go, and you would carry on working through all the other bits we've got in here in a similar manner. Something else that I could add to it would be to duplicate this layer. I often add a little bit of noise. Not too much, just a little bit of noise to it, and then I add that as a soft light or as an overlay, and I bring this opacity down. Just gives it a little bit of texture on the skin. Then of course I can press Ctrl E and drop it onto that layer. So I hope this lesson has been helpful in showing you how to different ways of doing concepts. So your initial doing it in Photoshop, drawing it all out, sketching it all up, and then these ways creating a good silhouette that you're happy with, as we did here, choosing this model, and then outputting as just a simple render straight from ZBrush and then painting it up. And of course, look, we've got so much detail in there in a very short amount of time, so you can spend as long as you like in here, and then give this to your art director and he'll say, yep, I like that one, and then you can say, right, okay, well, I've got the model, so I can use that as a base. That saves you time, so you can use that as a base and you can work it up, work into this concept. Of course, you don't just need to have like one view. You could turn the model around and have different views and paint them up all in a similar manner, but it's still a very speedy way of doing it, and it gets the concept across in a visual manner in the quickest time possible. And it's all about saving time and trying to get on to creating your character or your model as quickly as possible. So I hope this course has taught you something, and obviously, like the Sven Garley save tool is a brilliant thing, even in normal modelling, to save different stages along the way. Just set up a shortcut key for the M+, and you'll just sequentially output your model. Also, another thing to bear in mind is when Sven Garley saves the model, it saves it as the lowest subdivision level, which also means that it's not as big disk size as well, so it saves you going down to the lowest subdivision level, going to save. You can just do it all via one button, so that's a pretty good tool in itself. So what I'll be doing is putting the base mesh and the Sven Garley ZBrush 4 Release 3 as an asset with this video file.